Okay. Hey, folks. Welcome to episode 24 of Ink and Echo. Before we get too far, Andy, into this, I want to make sure that people know, first of all, our guest today, Mark Engles, is in Dredg, but he's currently playing in Black Map. Black Map is an active band, and they're on
tour now.
They are on tour now, and they're the band that provides our show theme music.
Yeah, that's what you just heard.
So
that was him playing the guitar.
I would encourage people to go listen to their music. Black Map, wherever, all the places, Black Map Music, and
it's so good.
It is quite good, and they have a new record coming out March 17th called In Droves.
Yeah,
and you can pre-order it now, or if you're listening to it past that date, then buy it.
Just get it.
And catch them on tour. If they're coming to one of your cities, they're opening for Chevelle.
I'm going to see them in a couple weeks.
I am hopefully going to see them.
Really?
As well, in Boulder, yeah.
Nice.
But yeah, please give them a listen. Andy, we've got some new patrons to thank.
Please thank them.
And these are Gail Gillen, my own mother-in-law.
Nice.
We have Mr. Brett Price, and we have my friend Austin Yoder. So thank you.
Cheers to all of you.
Austin, he'll be on this show at some point.
Oh.
It's just a matter of right time, right place. But yeah, he's a good dude, a filmmaker from out of Indiana, and we've become friends online. But these people are getting thanked because they gave $5 or more, pledged $5 or more to our Patreon page.
Per month.
Yeah.
That's nothing to sneeze at.
Yeah, no doubt. So we are grateful for that. And they are getting access to extra episodes, bonus snippets, all kinds of exclusive content that is available only to them and is not put out publicly. So if you like what we're doing and want to help us for as little as $1 a month, please go to inkandecho.com/Patreon.
Yes, or patreon.com/inkandecho.
Either way.
Both those will get you there.
Search it. Try it. Test it at home.
See what happens.
Just see if those links work.
Put in your credit card information. You never know.
So, Andy.
Hello.
Oh, man. Okay, just to be upfront, Andy and I are coming off of a long-ish day of recording music for Cordial Kill, and we just recorded the ad for this episode, and I feel very giggly and silly, and now I'm going to turn it a little bit serious.
Well, and to be clear, this is the very first time ever that we're in the same room recording this podcast.
Yeah.
Which is awesome.
And kind of weird to think about that for 23 shows we've not been in the same place.
And I've not seen your face while we're recording this podcast, and you've not seen mine. And I have pants on. Sometimes that doesn't happen, to be honest.
Yeah, I'm glad it's happening now.
Yeah, so I'm looking right into your eyes.
Right.
Your beautiful brown glass eyes.
Continue. Yeah, it is a weird thing.
But you said you want to get serious.
Yeah, kind of, sort of. I just want to share something that I've been reading. I've been sharing quotes a lot.
Is this Chuck Klosterman or is it something else?
No.
So you're opening a book. You've got a book in your lap. I can say this stuff now. I'm looking at you. You've got a marked page in a book. You've opened it up. You're reading it.
This is all correct.
Yeah.
True information. So I'm reading a book by a guy named Richard Rohr.
Oh, yeah. I've heard of him.
He's a friar or a Franciscan.
I was going to say he's Catholic?
Yeah.
Yeah.
A guy who operates here in Albuquerque, actually.
Wait, he's in Albuquerque?
Yeah.
Oh.
That's where it's not exactly a church, but it's kind of a...
He seems to be, from what I understand, a person a lot of what you'd say progressive Christians seem to follow his teaching. Is that true? Or am I
in a
misunderstanding?
Really general way, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. He makes a lot of Christians mad, too, and Catholics. And
perfect.
So, which is kind of why he just says things that are pretty out there.
Yeah,
and
that's great.
Some of them, I'm like, yeah, that's really out there. And some of them are actually quite helpful. So I've been reading a book of his called Immortal Diamond, which it is a little more, not quite self-help, but it's a little more on a human mental level than a straightforward theology book. And
sure.
I mean, just to give some context, I'm reading this or sharing this quote in the midst of being very unsure where I'm at in my faith. And that kind of seems to be coming up more often on this show. But Yeah, I just don't know. The older I get, the more I do not know. And I have to be okay with saying, like, I don't know.
Yeah.
So, but I think this is interesting because this is a Franciscan priest who's been practicing for something like 43 years. And he, in these following passages, is basically shunning capital R religion because it is a very different thing than faith itself. So here we go. Religio, which is the Greek word for rebinding or religamenting, is not doing its job if it only reminds you of your distance, your unworthiness, your sinfulness, and your inadequacy before God's greatness. And I like that because I think that religion, which yes, I believe in Jesus. I do not consider myself a religious person. Okay, just to put that, those are two very different things. To me, religion is control, and it's infrastructure, and it's business, and
it's guilt.
Yeah, and I'm not down with any of that. Moving far away from that as much as I can. But I like that. I mean, this is a guy who operates within a church, and he's saying this thing that I'm a part of overall is basically not doing its job. And let me read one more quote that is along those lines. So the moralistic agenda is revealed by the fact that one is never quite pure enough, holy enough, moral enough, or enough of an insider to the proper group. The process of sin management has kept us clergy in enduring business, and it must bore God to death, considering the weak historic ratings and results from all of our moralizing.
Wow.
I love that. Because yes, Catholicism and Christianity, they're businesses.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
Some people are making a whole lot of money off of Jesus' name. And
well, and that's my favorite. I mean, favorite's not the right word, but when I and if I'm in a situation where I'm going to criticize religion or churches, it always goes back to money for me. And
sure.
it's like, the dude up on the stage who's talking to you as if, he's making his living probably from this church, and he's got to keep people there.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing that, and I've probably said it before, but the thing that's most important to me is that people can change their minds over time on things like this. Yeah. And when you're in a church and you're making your money from that church, you cannot do that for the most part. And there's so many stories of people who, they start changing their mind on thing, and they've got to find a new career basically, or just totally change it. And it's like, I'm not interested in supporting institutions anymore that are not letting people grow and change their minds. So I don't know that's where my mind goes. I don't know if that's where it goes for you, but money is always where it goes to for me when in these sort of conversations.
Yeah. My mind doesn't exactly go there, but I'm certainly in agreement. And even in saying all this, I'm not trying to propose I've got it figured out, or I'm right, or that all of church is wrong and I'm this outlier who has the answers. I don't know the right way to do this. But I just appreciate an author who is deeply in the Christian world kind of calling out his own people, because I too would call them out.
So what is his actual job though?
I mean, he's a father or a priest. Like, he operates like a normal,
like inside a church.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. So he preaches the sermons. I assume he does confessions and all that. But he's a Christian. I hope I'm not missaying this. A Christian mystic.
Yeah, I think I've heard that too.
So, I mean, he's not popular even within his own brand of Christianity.
I wonder. I mean, this ties back to things that I have said at the beginning of this podcast and don't even agree with myself anymore. But, I really want to I don't want this. This is not a Christian podcast, and I don't want it to be. So I want people who don't agree with what we're even saying right now to go away. And I just wonder if I feel like when you embrace that unknowing attitude, like I don't the mystery, the mysticism, I guess, of this guy. And that seems like we're both in a similar place in that sense. Like, I think it makes it far more palatable to the rest of the world because we come with humility in saying, man, either I don't know, and I potentially don't agree with a lot of this stuff, or I don't know, and I just have these certain things that I hold to because of some experience or whatever. It just seems like the people who are mad at religion and Christianity could hopefully see someone like Richard Rohr or you and me and be like, well, I could talk to them. And that's what I want. Yeah. It's like, I don't want this show to be such that people like the dudes from Dredg can't come on this podcast because we're just like, well, what did you learn in church today? Or, just a bunch of white dudes talking about faith in a way that's too close-minded or echo chambery. So that's where my mind goes, is this side. I don't see, I think I used to see my faith or faith in general as like a divisive thing in a good way. And now I think it should probably, personally, I think it should be a thing where I can have a conversation with almost everybody and not like feel offended or disagree in such a way that I can't speak to them or whatever. And that's somewhat new for me. So yeah.
Right. Yeah, I would agree. And on a slightly different note, just the sort of the last part of that second quote, when he talks about how basically moralizing does, like, we have almost no results that has ever done anything.
And what does that mean to you?
Well, so what it makes me think about is and this is kind of what I grew up with, and I'm not calling out my parents in that. It's more the churches and the sort
institution.
of the learning I grew up under. But an example of moralizing the country would be, what if porn suddenly became completely illegal and like it got taken off, the internet, it got taken off shelves, production of it was shut down. Then there would be a bunch of Christians who are like, well, we just tidied up the country a little bit.
We did a great thing.
Yeah. And and that's not the answer.
And isn't prohibition kind of an example of, I don't know if that was a Christian
alcohol,
thing. Yeah.
I mean, people who want to make being gay illegal.
Well, but it seems like looking back on prohibition specifically, it's like that is demonstrably a failed effort. That was...
Yeah, because it backfired.
It totally backfired. And I've heard multiple people on different podcasts say, it's like, the gay marriage thing, it's like it is not going to go back the conservative way.
Yeah.
It's only going to increase. So it's like, it almost seems like you should just, if you have any problems with it, you should just kind of get with it because it's not going away. And it's like, there's certain things where it seems like they're going a certain way and it's not going to stop. Like legalization of marijuana, like gay marriage. That's just, people are going to look back 50 years from now and be like, seriously, there were people against that?
Right.
And that's insane to me.
And so it's kind of just the idea that any moralizing is never, that's not the point. Like, someone who believes in Jesus, if you just boil it down to basics, it's just like, hey, this dude walked the earth apparently and he loved everybody, and now his followers are supposed to love everybody. Well, moralizing the country we live in isn't a part of loving anyone. That's just kind of like cleaning it up so we don't have to look at all the bad things.
It's selfish.
Yeah.
I'm with you.
Okay, let's move on. This is something that will continue to be discussed on this show. But anyway, I'm enjoying this book, and it's my mind is expanding.
Yeah,
because of it.
That's awesome.
Good stuff.
Well, so speaking about Mark, who is about to be on the podcast, and also speaking of, we are working on music together. That's why you're here at my house. We're working on music for your movie, and there'll probably be more discussion of that on the episode that comes out next week. But it's just, when you came this morning, I showed you some new songs I'm working on, and I kind of offhandedly mentioned, it's like, well, I can't in my guitar playing, I can't not sound like Mark in certain areas.
Yeah.
And it's just, I mean, I know we sort of talked about this when Drew, the bass player from Dredg, was on. It's like that band has had more impact on me than any other art or band in my entire life. And I don't think it's hyperbole to say that my career would not be what it is without them. And so the fact that we got to talk to the guitar player who is, I mean, that's, you know, the sound of the guitar from the first albums I heard and the way he plays was the thing that initially drew me in. And so I got to talk to him for an hour. It's just insane to me. And it didn't seem appropriate to kind of fanboy to that level during the interview, but I feel like I would be remiss. Is that the word to use? Mm-hmm. I would be remiss to mention just the impact that this band has had and this man specifically in the way he plays guitar.
Yeah. Because
I don't remember if we've brought it up on the podcast before, but speaking of spiritual things or church things, I mean, I had at a Dredg concert, I'm pretty sure I said this before, but I had the experience where I was like putting my hands in the air, singing at the top of my lungs, feeling like a spiritual experience, and then coming home, going to a restaurant afterwards and being like, man, that's what they want me to feel at church, and I don't feel it there.
Yeah.
And it was sort of a crisis for me at the moment, but it's not anymore. It's just they are doing a thing that I experience, again, non-hyperbole, like on a spiritual level. Like the music is so powerful to me. And it's fun talking to Mark because he's just like a normal guy. He's working a normal job, but he's just, and I mentioned it in the podcast last week that he says something later on about doing it for a living that's really stuck with me. And just that, he's found this is the thing, like playing music live and recording albums is the thing that's his use in the world. That's how he helps people.
Yeah.
And that has just stuck with me because I am one of those people. Like I'm who he's talking about. I'm affected by his guitar playing and not by his day job, and that's why he keeps doing it. So
right.
I don't know. I wanted to say that because this is, I mean, what a ridiculous thing to be able to talk to half of my favorite band of all time who has influenced me so much.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, that's all I have to say, but I'm so grateful and thankful to have been able to talk to him.
Yeah. It's a beautiful thing that we live in just the right time period to be able to do that.
Yeah.
And that he was kind enough to come on and talk with us and endured all the technical difficulties we had.
Yeah, we need to get San Francisco's internet spruced up, it sounds like.
Right.
So, well, should we move on to our advertisement?
Yeah.
And then on to the interview from Mark?
Yes.
All right, here we go.
Oh man, I'm Mr. Spilly Pants person, and I'm always spilling all my beverages all over the dang place. Well, yep, there goes my glass of iced tea all over the counter.
Uh-oh. Tired of always spilling your drinks and having nothing to clean them up with but paper towels, napkins, rags, and if you're in a pinch, toilet paper.
I'm tired of all the old methods of mopping up my spills and liquids, cluttering up God's green earth with disposable paper products.
New! From the makers of Portable Portal, it's Portal Pad, the squishable, spongeable, brick-shaped towel surface cleaning device that not only absorbs your spills, stains, and messes, but transports your unwanted liquids into space. Old Rover had an accident on the floor? Arf? Portal Pad pounces on that potty stain and leaves behind no trace of unpleasant odor. Little Susie dumped a milkshake on her baby brother? Wah! Portal Pad to the rescue. Drop an entire pot of coffee into your lap at the IHOP? Ah! Ouch, now that's gotta hurt. Can't help you with the second-degree burns, buddy, but Portal Pad will absorb those coffee stains no problem. Plus, there's no limit to Portal Pad's absorbing power. Got a pesky body of water between Alaska and Japan? Better luck next time, Pacific Ocean. To try out our product for only $19.99, please visit inkandecho.com/portalpad.
Just last week we had Colin from Circa Survive on. That's not out yet, but
Excellent.
I know
Awesome.
you guys, and he spoke very highly of you, which is great.
Yeah, he's a great dude. We've always enjoyed touring with him, and it's kind of a strange small world thing where, you know, we met Circa Survive back in 2005, and the very first show they were opening for us, which is, I love it because now Dredge has to open for them, but that's a beautiful thing. But so long story short, they were opening for us. We were at some little weird bowling alley venue in Omaha, Nebraska, and point being is you meet these dudes, and we got along right away, and they're all from Philly. And the small world part of it is that now Colin and his girlfriend live in San Jose, which is where, you know, I grew up and Dredge started. And my point is that all of a sudden he's across the country and he's like meeting my old friends, and I see pictures of him, you know, hiking or doing things in spots that, you know, I used to go find inspiration in, you know, up in the woods. The Santa Cruz Mountains have always been a place of inspiration for me, and, you know, Dredge as well. You know, we definitely kind of got, you know, I think part of our sound came from that, you know, the Northern California redwoods and all that, but blah, blah, blah. Point is it's funny. A Philly guy, and all of a sudden he's here, you know, amongst our peoples, but it's lovely. It's really cool.
Where are you right now? Where are you
I live
living?
in San Francisco. I've been in San Francisco for about 15 years.
In San Francisco proper or somewhere?
Yes.
Outside.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. No, I'm in the city. The other guys are all still down in San Jose. Gavin was up here for a long time. So we would live in the city together, and we'd all go meet at the studio. You know, we had a studio kind of like halfway in between type thing. But yeah, I'm the only one left holding it down.
There's more room for you there in San Francisco.
I guess. I mean, I would love for everyone to be up here, but, you know, we all got to do our thing.
And are the other guys in Black Map in San Francisco too?
No. Ben and I lived together for a long time. That's actually how we started Black Map. You know, he played in Dredge as a hired hand, like, you know, adding harmonies and rhythm guitar. Yeah, we brought him on the road.
Yeah, I just found that out today, actually.
For about a year. Unfortunately, I cannot sing. And so bringing him on, you know, Ben and Gavin would harmonize really well. And Ben's a great guitar player. So he would add guitar and vocals and harmonies when we needed them. And we brought him to Europe, and we did the States. You know, his band would open up for us here in the States, and then he would also double dip and do that with us as Dredge headlining. So, you know, eventually we became great friends, and then, you know, kind of loosely just over beers, we talked about how, you know, I really yearned, especially after the Chuckles album with Dredge. I really wanted to play just heavy rock again. You know, I just wanted to put an SG into a Marshall and just crank it. And you know, I knew Chris Robine from the Far days, and, you know, we weren't great friends or anything, but I knew him. And then just by chance, he was playing with Dino and Crosses, so it was kind of perfect timing. And Ben knew him actually more recently, but Ben was in contact with him. I was like, honestly, if we're going to play in a heavy band, especially a trio, like, that's just the perfect drummer for me to have, you know, behind the kit. So he was down, and we had no expectations, and we got in the room. We literally just wanted to have a 12-pack of beer and write riffs. And we didn't, you know, we did not go in the room like, let's write songs and get signed. And it was not like that at all. It was more just like, let's play for fun. And luckily we wrote a couple songs that seemed like they would, you know, that people would like. So carried from there.
Yeah.
It's cool.
Hey, and before we go too much further, we have to acknowledge that Black Map, that's you playing guitar at the very beginning and end of this podcast. I don't know if you were aware of that or not. But you are our intro and outro, which we did get permission for. We emailed you and somebody said yes.
Yeah, I think
that was probably me. Okay, yeah, okay. But that was a while ago. I guess I didn't put the two and two together. Awesome. No, that's great.
Yeah. So excellent. It's gold. Yeah.
Sure.
Intro and outro.
Yeah. Excellent. Thanks.
So I
appreciate that.
Thank you.
Suits our show well.
Technically you've been on our podcast every week.
Cool. There we go.
So, Mark, something that stands out to me about Black Map's music is that while it is decently heavy, the production is very precise. Like it's punchy, but everything is so upfront and balanced really well. And it's like heavy music that goes down smooth.
It's like a fine whiskey.
Well, because there's some heavy music that just feels like it's blaring your ears out or making you bleed or something. But anyway, I guess I'm just in a roundabout way complimenting the production of your albums because it's so punchy, but it's so smooth.
Great.
So
I guess that'd be more of a compliment for Aaron Hellum, who we've done everything with him. We haven't worked with any other producer. He's not only a great producer, but just a badass person. I mean, we get along.
Yeah.
He keeps things light. He keeps stress down. But yeah, he does an excellent job. We've always loved what he's done with us. I think also, I mean, it's a trio, so there's not a whole lot going on. There's not a whole lot cluttering the mix, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So, you're not battling with frequencies. It's just literally drums, bass, guitar, vocal. I mean, we obviously add a little bit of fun things here and there, like noise candy here and there. But
sure.
I don't know. I mean, it's also just old Marshalls. They're kind of smooth sounding. The bass is big and fuzzy. I don't know. I love tones when it comes to heavy music. I grew up listening to Caius, and it's heavy, but it's like warm heavy. It's not shrill. It's not the top end is not going to destroy your ears. It's kind of big and big on the bottom. But so yeah, that was kind of an influence going into it. I guess is keep it like that, keep it thick and not too abrasive.
Yeah, and kind of going off what Josh said, like I've always felt like the Black Map stuff has just the right amount of like old school sound to it, but not so much that it's just like this is like a nostalgic thing where it's purely some throwback to something, but it has just the right amount of it that it feels like some older badass man just came in the room and like kicked the door down and is like, here's me. I'm wise and I got all these tattoos and I'm way better than all of you.
Well, I do have the last couple of years I do have gray hairs in my beard, so
okay,
maybe that's
so
what
literally that's what's happening.
Yeah, it's coming through. We put a nice ribbon microphone on those gray beard hairs and turn it up. No, I mean, yeah, I think shit. We didn't want to be contrived. I think there's a lot of bands out there that are heavy, and there's monikers and labels and categories of what stoner rock and this and that.
Right.
I think we just really made sure that we knew we wanted it to be heavy, honest, and not cliche. I guess for the lack of better terms. So you're definitely going to hear some dredge in there. The cool thing is you hear kind of all three of our bands in there.
Yes.
Yeah, we made sure, if we have a riff that we like, we don't want it to be a heavy riff for the sake of being heavy. We still want it to be, anyone can dig it. We don't want to be stoner rock. We don't want to fit in. But, I mean, it's hard to escape the idea that some of my favorite records that are heavy music still are from the mid 90s, so it's just hard to escape that, when it comes to loud guitars and loud drums. So it is what it is. But I think the new record, we definitely, what's the word to use? We definitely relaxed a little bit in the sense of not that we were trying to be a certain way in the first record. The first record is just definitely a riff-oriented rock record. This next one takes you on a little more journeys. There's some mellower stuff. There's more diversity. Nice. There's more dynamics. There's a couple interludes, So, I think we kind of wanted to branch out a little bit because we had a chance to kind of step back and look at where we were at,
Sure. So I know you just mentioned how you guys all just got in a room and drinking beers and kind of did it for fun. But is it true that all of your bands were on a hiatus at the same time? When you started it?
Yeah. I mean, unfortunately, Far is done. But yeah, Dredge, I mean, think about it. Black Map, we got into the room, it's probably 4 years ago that we just started jamming,
Yeah.
with nothing in mind. So that would have been fall of 2012. And so Dredge we were still doing some shows here and there. I think we went to Europe the next year. We did some of those full album shows in East Coast and West Coast. So we were still doing stuff, but it was definitely a point where, we felt frustrated with how the Chuckles thing went. It wasn't really in our control. And that was frustrating. We weren't frustrated with each other per se, but it was the perfect time for me. Like I said earlier, it was a perfect time for me just to be like, shit, I want to play rock music again. It sounds cheesy, but it's true. It's true. It's definitely true. Dredge was still playing shows, but we didn't have any, writing or studio scheduled. And Far is done, and Ben and Trophy Fire. Trophy Fire is basically his band. He had great players with him, the Schumann brothers, John and Adam Schumann, who are great dudes, great friends of ours. But it's kind of Ben's call type thing, you know what I mean? So if he wanted to work on new project, that's what he wanted to do. So the timing worked out.
Yeah, I was just wondering if there was any a sense, maybe from you more specifically than the other guys, of like, well, if it was born at all out of necessity, like this thing is kind of ramping down Dredge, and like but it sounds like that's not what you guys did.
No, it definitely wasn't ramping down. It's also, you have 4 people in a group. It's what everyone else is doing too. Obviously, as individuals, we all felt like we were doing different stuff too. And the cool thing is that everyone has each other's backs in the sense that everyone's supportive. It's like it's there's nothing weird about it at all. It's like, hell yeah, go do that, work on that. We're all brothers, so
sure,
we support each other.
Yeah.
So on the playing side, I mean, Black Map must kind of flex a different muscle for you musically than Dredge, because I mean Dredge has its heavy moments, but Black Map, you seem like you're having fun, and like there's maybe a little less acrobatics, so to speak, between pedals and riffs, and it's slightly more straightforward. Maybe that's incorrect.
I would say yes on the first album, but I would love for you guys. I'm anxious for you guys to hear the next album, because the next album actually, there's a lot of I pushed myself more. I challenged myself more.
Okay. Right on.
These songs are actually quite challenging. There's a lot of ups and downs, a lot of going, kind of like what Dredge would do, going from a gigantic riff into like absolute small atmospheric guitar parts. Right. So this next album has a lot more of that. But yes, you are correct. The first record is just, like I said, kind of more straightforward. Definitely using effects pedals and things like that for atmosphere, but the dynamics on this new one are more extreme and challenging for all of us, not just guitar work. I mean, we're all, we're rehearsing for the Chevelle tour coming up, and it's like really, pushing ourselves, because it's a good challenge,
Was there anything in doing this album, or even in the other album too, where you were like, I'm going to specifically not do this thing I used to do in Dredge? Or was it just kind of like, I'm Mark, so I'm going to play the way I'm going to play, and here's just other people,
I think the latter.
Okay.
I'm me, and I'm gonna do what I like to do.
Yeah, that's cool.
So I definitely did not. I'm proud of all the Dredge work. I'm completely proud of all. So if I can apply that to this band with 2 different people, I'm not worried about redundancy at all. It's going to be. I have 2 different guys doing things that I love what they do, and so confident that it's still going to be unique,
Right, and they're automatically different than all the other guys in Dredge anyway, so it's for sure not going to sound so similar.
Yeah. Mark, so something Andy and I have both recognized about your playing is that you are freaking fast sometimes. Like probably the proper term is you're a beast. And I'm not just puffing you up for no reason.
I don't know about that. I'm 5'6". I'm 5'6", 125 pounds. So beast is not it's not the term that you should probably come up with. But
Well, but so are there nights where you come off stage and your forearms are just destroyed because you're doing extremely fast up and down motion? I know that's a stupid, pointless question.
You mean like muscle wise? Yeah,
Yeah,
there's definitely
like you're
a headlining set, especially with dredge. And when we were at our peak and we were doing almost 2 hours a night.
Right.
Yeah, definitely. There's definitely, and don't get me wrong. Even during the set, there's challenges like certain muscles just say "fuck you" and decide to lock up, or it's like anything. But to me, and also on the skin too, I have my right arm. A lot of times it opens up because of the friction on the wood.
I was just gonna say that I've learned some of your songs, and the freaking on the inside of my forearm, because you do so many just like. And it's such a metal thing. It's probably from your background, but it's like just so many downstrokes where you could do an upstroke if you wanted to make it easier on yourself, but it sounds so much cooler to just do down, down instead of down, up, down, up.
Certain parts, all down is the way to go on certain parts, right? It just
totally.
So much more back end impact. But yeah, I mean, so I have muscle things will happen. There's probably a little bit of carpal tunnel, I'm sure. But like, your hand will go numb in the set sometimes, or afterwards my arm is bleeding. But the interesting thing is, every night's different, and I would be lying to you if I said that every night I felt like I was 100% on my game. That's just life, right? So my point is that I started gauging myself. This sounds retarded, but I started gauging myself on the idea that if my right arm wasn't like wounded, especially after a headlining set, I felt like I wasn't like giving it enough. It sounds stupid, but like truly, I know when I would play a really good show, because after the show, my arm is totally fucked. So
yeah,
it is what it is, It is what it is.
Yeah, totally.
Right. I mean, you watch the first 10 seconds of the Run Rabbit Run video, and it's like Mark's arm basically looks like a railroad, like the thing on the side of a railroad engine that's just like chugging up and down.
And seriously, it also comes from bad form. I've never claimed to be a technically sound player, so it's anyone that's going to tell you that there's a proper way to play guitar probably doesn't have an arm that's bleeding. So I would say that it also comes from me not knowing exactly what I properly should be doing. But also my left hand, I don't have the best technique with my left hand. I'm not a shredder per se, but I started playing drums first, and so I think right hand. Yeah, so I think the right hand comes from drums, just having the rhythm of knowing how to play a drum kit. Because I'm not going to play an Eddie Van Halen or Randy Rhoads solo as much as I'd love to. I tried when I was a kid. I definitely tried, but I learned that my right hand is my main skill set. So
right,
put a bunch of delay on and go.
Yeah, totally. Well, that's when I think about your playing. I notice, like it's somewhat easy. Like a lot of kids can tap the end of Eruption, and that is not actually really that hard, but what's really hard, like what you do, your right hand is very precise, so just like going down on like a B minor or somewhere is really hard to get those all to sound the same volume, the same like precision timing, and that's what makes your playing sound so like exciting to me, because I'm like, it's just so
and
on it.
Knowing where to mute too. I think a lot of people don't understand that the nuance of if you want it to be very, very staccato, people. I know you guys play. It's one of those things you don't think about it. It's so subconscious, but it's like you try to show someone how to do a staccato chord, rhythmic, part, and you forget that you're muting all over the place. To make it to keep it tight.
Yes.
But yeah, that's all just comes from that. After a long time, it becomes subconscious, I guess. But,
right.
Yeah, it comes from drums, I think.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So while we're kind of on the playing aspect, I don't normally like to ask gear questions, but like what possessed you at the beginning to say, I want 2 half stacks and I'm going to put them on one each side of the stage and run stereo, because that's like the coolest sound I've ever heard. And seeing you guys live, it's like the biggest guitar sound that I've ever heard. So like where did that come from?
Let me see. Well, to make it without making it boring, I just fell in love with.
I mean, I won't think it's boring, but
well, the listeners. I started out in metal and punk. Drew and my brother showed me punk, but I was into metal. And then, around a certain age, I got into more atmospheric music. To make a long story short, and it started with like Portishead and DJ Shadow and things like that were kind of almost like a movie score in moments.
Yeah.
And I got really into score production, and then I discovered Pink Floyd and Radiohead, blah blah blah. Bands like Mogwai, I fell in love with. Sigur Rós. This is all late '90s. I think Mogwai, their new album at the time was "Come On Die Young."
Yep.
And this is all 99, 2000. So we hadn't made El Cielo. We'd finished Leitmotif.
Right.
And I decided that if I really wanted, I think while we were making El Cielo, if I wanted my live sound to sound like the record, I probably needed to go stereo. Right. And because our albums had so many layers, and I knew live we couldn't have all the overdubs that we were doing in the album, but I wanted to make sure that when fans of El Cielo came to see us live, that we weren't letting them down. So I felt like I could go stereo and kind of make up for the lost sounds that you hear on the record.
Right.
That's just where it came from. After El Cielo was done, I was like, holy shit, this is such a lush record that I need to do something with my guitar sound to make up for that,
Right. Did you ever walk into a venue and the sound guy's like, wait, you want to do what? Why are you one amp on each side of the stage? Like,
no, it's actually not that uncommon. You just tell them you're running stereo. Tell them you're running stereo and you want it panned hard. And at that point, I think we had our own front of house guy anyway.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Even now with Black Map, I still do it with Black Map. And it's no different than having two guitar players. It's just like
right.
You just say you have two guitars, bass, drums, and then they realize that you're the two guitars. It's just miking two amps for one dude. It doesn't make a difference. You know what I'm saying? So
yeah, and you do a good job. Like, it'd be tempting for a lot of people to probably just like, I'm gonna have my stereo delay on all the time because that sounds so good. But you do a really great job of waiting till a certain moment to kick it on to get big and then small again. It's just like you're able to be so dynamic with the space, the stereo.
You are correct though. It is tempting to. The thing is, it's just about what parts are tight and what parts aren't. You have to learn that, and just knowing when you get to a rhythmic part, to not want to have that on. That's about it.
Right.
Indeed.
So, Mark, something we tend to talk about a lot on this show is sort of our own relationship with social media and how technology in general kind of adds to our anxiety. And we, at least Andy and I personally, seem to be pulling away from it more and more all the time, at least the social media bit. And you in particular and Black Map you seem pretty hands off, or that your presence there is fairly limited and mostly informational. It's just like, here's a new thing, that's it.
Right.
I mean, I'm just curious, what are your thoughts on that? What's your relationship to that? Are you of an age, so to speak, that you never really adopted it to begin with?
Well, I guess I try to look at the positives of it, and I try to keep out the negatives of it. I don't. How do I phrase this? I don't feel like one's personal life should be on social media at all. I see a lot of people that get way too personal, and
right.
So I keep it, for like photography, artwork, my music, maybe something interesting, maybe some interesting tidbits. But I really feel like it's not a place that I want to put my life up onto. I don't need strangers knowing about my life,
Yes.
The people that are close to me because I talk to them and I hang out with them, and that's what email and phone calls are for, right? So
yeah,
I just try to keep it very just medium based. I
right.
just feel like that's the way it should go. Plus, just my whole life with the bands I've loved or the artists I've loved, I feel like mystery is always a better thing. I've never liked when artists or bands get too personal or too pushy and try to spoon feed. I think subtlety's a good thing, you know.
Yeah,
Let the art speak for itself, you know.
Right.
Yes.
So, like, similarly to how social media has, I mean, when you guys started, it basically didn't exist in the sense, in the way that it does now. But right. I mean, similarly with the music industry, are there things? I mean, basically, how do you feel positive or negatively about the things that are happening in the music industry versus like when Dredg started or when you started playing music? Are things harder, or things better, or not?
I mean, the obvious is people don't pay for music anymore.
Right.
That's the obvious part. You know, people would rather spend $60 at the bar than pay $10 for an album. It's an interesting human phenomena that's occurred in the last 10 plus years. But on the positive side, holy shit! I mean, we've all found musicians and artists and filmmakers, and we've all been able to find these creations where we never would have been able to find them before. So I think that positive definitely outweighs the monetary negative. We all have just to roll with the punches and figure out another way to support ourselves, But I mean, there's so many examples of, like I said, being able to discover these things you never would have discovered before, people from all over the world, So that to me is definitely much more of a positive. But you got to be able to roll with it. And 10 years ago when things started to change, it was tough for musicians and people like Lars Ulrich and, those would complain and, we all understood, but at the same time, don't be a Luddite and go with it, figure out other ways.
Right.
Yeah.
Are you able to support yourself just on Black Map, or is there other things you're doing?
No, I have a job.
Okay.
I have a job. Yeah. No, Dredg, we were at a point with Dredg for the most of it where fortunately we could just play music.
Yeah.
But no, the last 4 or 5 years we all have jobs.
Yeah. Do you care to say what that is? You don't have to if you don't want to.
Oh, it's very glamorous. I run I manage an audio visual company.
Okay.
Mainly for corporate gigs, so it's not glamorous at all, but I enjoy it. I like my boss and I enjoy my coworkers. So
obviously they're cool with you, touring the world with Chevelle and all that stuff.
The cool thing about that industry is almost everyone I work with is musicians or former musicians, or everyone understands. My boss is a musician, and so
kind of got their own projects on the side.
Yeah, and everyone understands. It's like, oh, I have a tour coming up. Totally get it.
Right.
So no problem there.
So that's interesting. So as someone who had a day job, I'm assuming before Dredg, and then was able to make a living off Dredg for a little while, and then going back to a day job, do you view having a day job differently? Does it feel different, or and then plus, how was your experience being able to live fully on music? Did that change your experience as well?
Well, I guess I'll answer the first part.
Yeah.
I take pride in going to work every day. I don't take it for granted. And I really enjoy kind of what's the word to use? It's almost like a different lifestyle or different life, because, I roll in and I'm maybe under a bunch of people, especially the corporate gigs. You have these VPs that are coming in making 6 figures or more, and they don't know who I am, and I kind of I kind of enjoy the anonymity. I kind of enjoy, it's like I said, it's almost like a different life.
Yeah.
And the second part would be, when we were doing well enough to pay the bills, trust me, we weren't like rich or anything, but you could pay your rent and pay your utilities and
yeah,
all that, you could get by. but we were so busy at the time too. It felt like a job. I mean, not that I didn't enjoy it. I enjoyed the hell out of it, but I mean, it wasn't like we had tons of time sitting around doing nothing. You would come off a tour and maybe you would have 10 days or 2 weeks, which felt like deserved vacation, but you were right back out or right back into the studio writing, you know. And when Dredge wrote, we were in the studio 5 days a week. We treated it like a job, you know. We'd go from 11 a.m. till 6 or 7 at night, you know, and write. We treated it like a day job, you know. So so it doesn't really feel different. I think work ethic is work ethic.
Yeah, totally.
Just the difference is either you're the one in control or you're the one not in control.
Yeah. And the reason I ask, and I'm kind of fascinated with this particular subject, is like I quit my job 4 years ago and I'm doing music for a living, which is great. Nice. But I also am very aware of, like, I think if I was forced back into some day job that I did enjoy, that would almost be very healthy for me, at least in a creative sense, because I think sort of what you were saying about the somewhat having like a rigid thing that you got to go to, I guess, or something where you're not or there's not so much creative pressure on you. So I guess that's what's fascinating is like, I see, like, there was a long period where I was like, oh my gosh, it would just be the best thing in the world to do music for a living. And I'm kind of, as much as I still love it and I'm so thankful for it, it's like I see a lot of positives to going back and having an actual day job that I don't think I wasn't thinking about before. And it's just, so that's kind of the headspace that I'm interested in, you know?
I completely agree. There's a really great adage that I enjoy, which is if you want something, you know, if you need something to be done, or if you need someone to help you get something done, ask a busy person to do it. And it's kind of true. There was moments in my life where maybe depression sets in, or, you know, lethargy or something where, you know, because I didn't have a day job and maybe Dredge was not working, it's kind of what you're saying. It's you don't have that routine, you don't have that regiment, and sometimes I feel the most productive and the most creative when you're hustling and your days are so full that you're stressed, but you know, your brain is firing on all cylinders, you know.
It's like if you have 5 things to do in a day, you'll probably get them all done. But if you just have one thing to do in a day, it's like there's less chance of even getting that thing done in a weird way.
Exactly. Yeah. And when it comes to creativity too, I know that when I roll in the studio after a big full day, you might be tired, but you're like, you know, you're kind of ready to go. You're already in it, you know, you're pushing yourself through it, and it just feels like the next thing on your list, you know, in a good way.
Right. So is doing music, whether it be Black Map or Dredge or both in some sense, is that something you want anymore to do it for like full time, or no?
Oh yeah, I mean, of course, because I think you know, with saying that, it means that you're succeeding.
Yes.
So yeah, of course. I mean, it's where I feel the most. What's the word I always use? It's where I feel the most useful in life. I feel like whenever I've taken time off of touring or playing, as soon as I go on tour again, I always feel this sense of like, okay, this is
your purpose.
Exactly. I forgot. This is what I'm supposed to be doing. I feel like I'm serving society better, you know?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
People hopefully leave feeling happy and enlightened. Not that we're dropping any sort of deep enlightenment on them, but you know what I mean? It's a good concert's a good concert, and you walk away feeling invigorated, you know?
Yeah, totally. That makes a lot of sense.
So despite what you just said a few minutes ago about social media and just personal life and stuff, I'm just curious, and you can share as much or as little as you want. Outside of music, outside of day job, you know, what do you enjoy? What do you turn to in just free time or downtime? I mean, are you a reader? Do you like cinema?
Sure. Yeah, both. Love film, love books. I'm a huge soccer fan. I spent a lot of my time watching the Arsenal from Northern London. I mean, living in San Francisco, pretty spoiled here. We have all sorts of things to do, you know? I mean, today I just went down to the coast. The waves right now are absolutely insane. All the surfers are out. You know, we have Mavericks here. So I went out, took a friend down there, went out and had some lunch, and just, it's pretty ridiculous here. We have the redwoods, we have the Sierra Nevadas. Plus I just enjoy this city too.
Right.
This city has so much to offer. But free time. There's always something here to do.
Sure.
That's about it. But no, I don't have any crazy hobbies when it comes to. I think music and work takes up enough of my time.
Right.
But I dabble here and there in things, and I don't think I could at this point in my life I could live somewhere that wasn't stimulating me.
Right.
The cost of living in San Francisco is getting a bit ridiculous, but I kind of weigh that with I'm not ready to move away to someplace quiet.
Yeah.
I like the constant stimulus of living in the city.
Yeah.
Sure. Are you much of a show goer yourself to local acts or otherwise? Okay.
Both.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, living here, there's always good bands coming through. There's always friends coming through too,
Yeah.
It's constant. You'll get an email or a text message from a friend that's in a band and they're coming through, or maybe, a guitar tech is working for a certain band and you go see, just constantly going to shows, friends, bands. That's definitely one I didn't mention. Always going out to shows here in the city, and we have really great venues that feel spoiled with some of our venues here, the Fillmore and Great American Music Hall and the Independent, Warfield. There's always something going on with that. So, indeed.
Right. Yeah.
Nice.
And Andy and I have personally made a couple treks out that way together. There was a period where we both lived in Albuquerque, New Mexico. Andy's still there. I'm in Denver, but we did a couple trips in particular to Oceanside and kind of drove Highway 1.
Nice.
And always made our way to San Francisco for a day.
Cool.
But it just seems like honestly a magical part of the country where it sort of seems like it shouldn't exist because it's just like you said, there's so much to offer. There's a ton of diversity.
Mm-hmm.
It's beautiful.
Yeah. I mean,
and of course,
don't get me wrong. It has, we have our downsides here too. But it's just the way I always explain it is, dredge or black map or even my personal travels. I can go for a month and see a bunch of different countries, see, beautiful sights, beautiful things, beautiful people. But when I come back to San Francisco, it never feels drab. It's always like, okay, I'm still very anxious and happy to get back to this city. So, I feel fortunate, and luckily I have rent control, so I can still live here.
Hey, nice. Wait, so I'm curious. This is shifting gears again. You mentioned a couple times already the Chuckles and Mr. Squeezy, the last Dredge album so far.
Yeah.
Because we talked to Drew about it too. But in your words, what was your experience with not only making the album or whatever, but with kind of the aftermath of it?
Well, the simplest way I'll put it is it was the first time in Dredge's career that we didn't have control. And that's not anyone's fault. We agreed on that.
Yeah.
And so, I'm not blaming anyone. We respect the hell out of Dan, Dan Nakamura, Dan the Automator. Love his work, going all the way back to, Dr. Octagon. We listened to Dr. Octagon on vinyl in the basement while we were recording Leitmotif, things like that.
Oh, wow.
I mean, we've always been huge fans of him, the Lovage record, the stuff he's done with Patton. But simply stated, it was the first time in Dredge's career that we weren't in the studio together making sure that it was a Dredge record. And so,
right,
when it came time for the mixes, we were out on tour with Circus Survive, and he sent us the mixes, and we knew right away that, okay, we liked the songs. I think the songwriting, when we play these songs live, they sound much more like how Dredge would produce these songs. So when it comes to the actual songs themselves, I have no regrets on that end. Sure. But it was the first time where we basically tracked our parts and left. And not only that, but we weren't in there together. It would be like I would go in and do guitars by myself. You know, Dino would go in and do his drums. I think we were all there for drums, but you know what I'm getting at. You know, every other Dredge record, everyone's there the whole time giving feedback. That's what creates our sound, you know? So simply stated, it was, you know, I've always said I thought it should have been, we were kind of stuck in this corner because the label we were on, they wouldn't agree to make it a Dan the Automator and Dredge Presents record. It should have been a collaboration record, almost like a side project where it was like Dan the Automator and Dredge made this side project. You know what I mean? And they wouldn't allow that. They because of the contract, and I get it, it's business, but they were like, hey, this has to be the new Dredge record. So that's the corner we were in, you know. You listen to it, it sounds like Dredge songs, but the production is, you know, nowhere near what Dredge should be. The guitars are buried. You know, it doesn't sound like a rock band at all. So, you know, like I said, there's parts of it I love. There's some songs in there I still really enjoy. I honestly think it's all in the mix. I mean, if we decided to go back and remix that record and then show it to some of these fans that were crying on the internet about it, they probably would look at it totally differently. Because I think a lot of people don't understand how important a mix is. You know, they just don't. They don't get that. Like, you know, make the drums sound more aggressive, turn the guitars up. You know, it's insane what that can do. So, yeah, that's where I'm at. I feel like it's the simplest way to explain it is it was the first time in our career that we were not in control. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. You know, it is what it is.
Yeah.
Right.
So, and given, I mean, you know, you just talked about all you guys being in the same room. Have you, I mean, this is every Dredge fan's question, I guess, but have you all been in a room together recently at all and writing anything?
Yeah.
I mean, Drew kind of alluded to some stuff.
Yeah, but that was back in when did you guys talk to Drew? Because I think since then we've had a couple cool developments.
Please share.
When you guys talked to Drew in September?
Yeah, at the time he said you guys had just been on a Skype call together.
Had dinner.
Okay.
Yeah, we got together and had got dinner together. You know, first time in like 5 years, and just it was great. We ate good food, drank great drinks, and talked and laughed and loosely, you know, talked about what each individual was envisioning, and you know, without giving there's no big announcement or anything, but you know, I think we're all ready to just start writing new music. So sometime in the future we will do that. Yeah.
Mark, did you in the course of Dredge's career, did you have, I mean, I'm sorry, that sounded like I was saying it was over. I understand it's not. Was your role, did you have much say in the sort of thematic, conceptual, you know, process of each record, or were you a little more just sort of on the musical and playing side?
No, definitely. Drew and I were, I think, the main ones that really pushed for concept albums. We were huge Pink Floyd fans. And you know, Drew and I go back to like 13 years old together. And, you know, experimenting with different substances and things of that sort. We fell in love with Pink Floyd together, and we just loved, what we loved about it was the idea that you're not just releasing 12 songs to the public. You're not just, not that there's anything wrong with that, but we just felt like, you know, the albums that touched our lives it doesn't have to be contrived. It doesn't have to be spoon-fed, but it's something of a theme that runs through it. And it just makes it last forever. It makes it a bit more timeless.
Yes.
You know, the same reason that we don't like making pop music. Not that there's anything wrong with pop music. It makes people happy. But I think dark mediums are more timeless, you know? And So yeah, Drew and I definitely, before El Cielo, Drew was the one on Leitmotif. I think, we talked about wanting a concept, but he was the one that came up with that concept. And then with El Cielo, we were so on the same page we were so intrigued by the idea that you can score different things. So you can score a film, you can score a play or a ballet, but what about the idea of scoring a painting? And then he was the one that came up with the Salvador Dali thing, and it was perfect because sleep paralysis is so fascinating. I definitely had a moment in time, actually during that record and after, where I had sleep paralysis a lot.
Oh wow!
Not as much anymore. So I was fascinated by it.
Was it terrifying?
Yeah, no.
It sounds terrifying.
Yeah, it's just like the ultimate nightmare, because you can see the room. It's almost like part of your brain is working and part of your brain is not.
Right.
So you can see the room that you're in, and so you feel like you're awake, and no one really knows if you actually are seeing the room or if it's your brain showing you the room. I happen to think that the visual part of your brain is probably working. That's just I'm no scientist in that realm, but
sure,
I'm not a neurologist, but I happen to think your eyes are open and you're seeing the room, but there's only certain parts of your brain awake and the other parts of your brain asleep, which would make sense. So you can't move. You're having all sorts of audio hallucinations. There's people talking in your ear.
Wow.
It's always ominous. It's never positive. That's the crazy thing. Is it's always completely frightening, which is to me very interesting. And maybe that's because maybe that's part of you. Maybe it's a safety mechanism that something's wrong, or who knows. But
right.
Yeah, it's interesting stuff. So I digress. Drew and I were really, together on making the concept work, and I've always been really involved in, how the album flows, the sequence, the interludes, what they're going to be called.
Right.
We figured out that brushstrokes, for instance, for El Cielo was perfect.
Yes.
And then on later records, every record was different, but Catch was a little looser. I didn't have as much to do with that. That we purposefully didn't want to. We got some backlash on El Cielo, so we purposefully were kind of like, okay, let's make Catch not as contrived as a concept record. But then when it came to Pariah, that was actually Gavin and I. Gavin and I sat down. We were really upset with, just kind of what was happening in the world with religious extremism and just the idea that people can be so blind-sided and short-sighted when it comes to their view of the universe and our existence and all of that. So we sat down and did some research and figured out that we wanted to make a record that was, not preaching, but just kind of talking about the idea that, if you exist as a human being, this is what you should expect before you exist, and understand that there's going to be people out there that try to tell you how and why you exist, and a lot of it's going to be bullshit, So.
That's funny because that album, I'm not a lyrics guy really at all, but there's multiple lines in that album that have honestly stuck with me, and one of them being when he says, "I am not to blame, but we are all part of the problem."
Right.
Like that. Whenever I think of big systems or things happening, I always end up thinking about that, and not just like, "Hey, I'm right about this and you're wrong." It's like, well, there's like a humility in that. Like I'm in this too. We're all here doing a thing together on this earth. And I just feel like if it's almost like a mantra. If every time my brain starts going a certain way, I'm like, well, I'm not to blame, but I'm part of the problem. So it's just like a really good thing to think about. Yeah.
Yeah. I know with Gavin, with that line, he's basically hinting at, voluntary ignorance is kind of the way to put it, right? It's
sure.
It's these, being ignorant is one thing. And if you're, unknowingly ignorant, that's one thing. And it's hard to, it's hard to attack that, right? But it's the voluntary ignorance that frustrates people like ourselves. Mm-hmm. not wanting to learn more, not wanting to have perspective and empathy,
Yes.
and those things that are so vital, to keep shit from getting out of hand, So I think that's definitely where he was leaning with that.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. Dang. This has been great.
Yeah.
Yeah, except for the technology.
Right.
That's all right.
Yeah, well, Andy will clean it up and our listeners will never know there was any issue.
Yeah, that's my job.
Yeah. Yeah.
You have one job. Nice. Thank you.
Hey, last question ish. How did you connect with the guys from Chevelle? Because I know you've gone out with them before on tours.
Yeah.
How did you connect with them?
Very, very simple. No great nugget here. I mean, very simple. Very simply, dredge toured with them a little bit.
Oh, really?
And,
Okay.
yeah, we did a couple runs with them. I want to say 2004. In fact, I know it was 2004 because I remember I was sitting in the bar of the venue before we went on and watched Bush get reelected. So it must have been 2004.
Oh, wow.
So long story short, we became friends with them when I was with Dredge, and then something happened where I think one of them heard, because they're fans of Far too.
Okay.
Far is a big influence on them as well. And so I think I just straight up texted Sammy, the drummer. They're all such nice dudes. I think I just texted him and was like, "Hey, it's been a while. Have a new project. Let me know if we can join you guys." It was that simple, and he was very cool. He was like, "Let's do this." So, I know now it's come to a point where, musically it works, but more importantly, at our age, we get along so well, and they know what to expect, and they know that the backstage area is going to be chill, and they know that we're going to roll in as professionals.
Yes.
You're not going out with a bunch of young idiots.
Yeah, not that there's anything wrong with doing that when you're young, but you know what I mean. It's they know that we're going to be so chill, so professional, and just do our thing. And plus, we just get along really well. We're great dudes.
Yeah.
So
yeah, that's awesome. Andy will get to see it. I don't think you guys are coming to Denver on this run.
Yeah, I'll see you on the 24th.
We're doing Boulder.
Oh, okay. Right on.
Yeah, we're doing Boulder on the 26th.
Yeah.
Cool.
So let me know if you can make it. I'll definitely throw you on the list.
Heck
I know it's a little bit of a drive, but the Boulder Theater.
Oh,
Nice.
right on. Okay, yeah, that's
that used to be the Fox.
That might be. I don't know Boulder as well. I've only lived here for like 5 years.
Gotcha.
But yeah.
Yeah. Let me know.
And in Albuquerque, the El Rey, that's probably kind of a different one. I mean, you've probably played surely Launchpad and maybe Sunshine.
I've
Played
definitely seen
both
Dredge
Launchpad.
at Launchpad. Yeah.
Yeah. I've played Sunshine too, for sure. We opened up for Sparta and Glassjaw there, and
Oh, right.
a couple other bands. Yeah, way back.
Nice.
This is like 2003.
Yes.
Hey, speaking of touring, which is a weird segue here, Drew told us the story of you guys like throwing a cone through your van window.
Whoa. Wait, let's stop there. You guys, it was Drew who did it. So.
Okay, no, I'm saying he told us the story about how he did it. I want to hear.
No,
I want to hear one of your favorite tour stories like that, or different, or whatever. It's like a funny, stupid story.
Well, there's a couple. I guess my favorite is also Drew is probably the point man on this. But so we were in Berlin, Germany, and we were parked. So we played a venue, and then we all went out, and we had some various friends. We kind of separated that night and did different separate things in Berlin. Mm-hmm. And we were parked at a venue that was different from the venue we played, if that makes sense. Some venues have bus parking. So long story short, we were at this venue just parked. We hadn't played there. Mm-hmm. And a couple people, I won't name names, but it'll be obvious. A couple people in the band decided that at about 1 or 2 a.m., throwing some bottles against the wall, really kind of harmless in a way. I mean, there's no one around. But basically breaking bottles was going to be a fun thing to do. And so that happened. And there really wasn't any damage besides the glass. We actually picked up the glass in the morning. But I guess there was a couple nicks on the wall. It was a cement wall. So what's the real harm? But there was a couple nicks in the paint, a couple little things, like not that big of a deal. But about 3 months later, we did get an email apparently from the Berlin police. And it was not anything nefarious. It wasn't anything that serious. It was basically just, I think that the venue needed to file a police report probably for insurance because they probably wanted to repaint the wall or something. Mm-hmm. So it wasn't that big of a deal, but it was definitely an email from the Berlin police. and we didn't do anything about it. We didn't say anything. We played dumb.
Right.
And we went back to Germany to tour about a couple months later. So this was probably 6 months after the incident. Mm-hmm. And again, not that big of a deal, not a huge crime, right? And Drew, without telling anybody, set up the best prank ever because we had to go play the venue where the bottles were broke. We had to go play that venue on the tour. So already the guilty parties were kind of a little bit on edge. They were a little bit on edge. They were a little, not that they freaked, what's the worst that's going to happen? They probably have to pay a fine. It's not something you go to jail for,
Right.
But they were a little bit like, curious. I wonder what's about to happen. Well, without telling anybody except for, I think, the promoter and a couple other people, how do I tell the story from the other end? I'll tell it from my end.
Okay.
I'm on stage during our last song, which was Bug Eyes, mm-hmm. and 2 Berlin police officers walk on stage and ask if they can please. First of all, they stop us. We stop in the middle of the song, and they ask if they can please see Gavin Hayes and Dino Campanella. So, and I'm sitting there going, "Oh shit!" The crowd starts losing their mind. There's probably 1,000 people there. The promoter comes up and starts talking to the crowd in German, and the crowd gets very upset and starts chanting "dredg." And we go backstage. I don't know what's about to happen. We go backstage, and the police officers are there, and they have all this paperwork. And they're trying to get Gavin and Dino to look at the paperwork. They're acting like they don't know what's going on. And then all of a sudden, one of the police officers puts his arm around Gavin and goes, "By the way, we're not police officers. Drew hired us."
Oh my gosh.
So Drew hired 2 German actors in full police garb to go up on stage and arrest Gavin and Dino, and that was pretty amazing.
Oh my gosh!
So the crowd is going crazy; they're pissed, and we come back out and we finish the song and then do a couple encores, and it was all good. It was probably one of the best pranks I've ever seen. It's all on video too. I think you can look it up.
Oh yeah,
I think it's on YouTube. I think you can search it on YouTube.
Excellent.
Yeah, I was clueless. Like Drew, I think Drew was about to tell me about it one night, and then decided it'd be better if he was the only one in on it. Yeah, because I fell for it too, even though I wasn't the one worried. I wasn't the guilty party, but yeah, it was one of the best pranks I've seen.
So you could say, so Gavin could say, the journey back to Berlin was haunting him. If he's singing Bug Eyes.
No, he wasn't worried. He was all good.
Oh, that's so funny. What a good use of your per diem money, or however he spent it.
Yeah, right. I love it.
Oh,
right.
Well, Mark, thanks so much, man. This is awesome.
Truly.
Thank you guys. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
And best of luck.
Let me know if you're coming out to any of the shows. I'll make sure to get you on the list and say hello and all that good stuff.
That's
That'd
really
be
why we
lovely.
do this podcast.
That's the only reason. Free tickets. That's
Yeah,
it.
right?
Yeah. Well, best of luck on the new record,
Exactly.
and I hope the tour goes well.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. Yeah.
Yeah. Take care, man.
You
We'll
got
talk
it.
to you
Thanks
later.
so much. And we'll see you guys out on the road.
All right. Well, that was great.
Yes. I was, oddly enough, I think I was more nervous than with any other guest with Mark.
Why?
Well, I think because of all the technical stuff that went wrong. I mean, listeners, you don't hear it, but we lost the call at least 3 times.
Yeah.
And there were sections where Mark was talking and it was on our end, it was just like dropping out because of internet connection.
Yeah.
That's so, if you've never done a podcast before, that's so stressful when you have someone you appreciate and you're so grateful they came on just for, you only have them for 90 minutes. And when some of those minutes are getting destroyed by stupid internet, it's like, no, please work. Like, just work.
Right. Yeah. So, and hopefully my edits made that less apparent than it was. But yeah. And I told you before, like, this is the first time where, I mean, we've had technical difficulties before, but it was always like getting the conversation started.
Yeah.
Like, we got to get connected, and then once we're connected, then we're good. But this one was like multiple times in the middle of it. So, but yeah, I mean, like I said at the intro, there's just certain nuggets that I got out of it that really have stuck with me since then.
I would agree.
And I mean, hopefully other people feel the same.
Right. Yeah. The thing he said about work was really helpful. Just that he takes pride in his day job. That he's legitimately grateful to have it. I think that's a really good attitude and perspective, and one that I want to mimic better.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like I said at the intro, it's just I, as someone on the other end of the spectrum, I have doubts about whether I should be doing music for a living, whether it's good for me or not. And just to hold on to the idea of like, well, and I legitimately believe that this is my purpose. This is how I'm most useful in this world. So, and the way he was like, when I said like, well, do you want to do it for a living? And he's like, yeah, because that's like maximizing success. And it's like, yeah, well, of course. That's it's really just that simple. Like, I found the thing that I'm doing in the world, and I need to stick with it and maximize it and do the most I possibly can with it. So that helps me when I have days where I'm like, what am I doing? Like, I would love to relieve the pressure on my creativity and remove the financial burden having to make my living from it, and just sort of realize like, no, I need to be grateful and maximize it as much as possible. And honestly, that's one of my goals for this year, is just to, and I told you the other day, I was like, I feel somewhat guilty about how little I put out last year as a full-time musician. Right. And I don't want to do the same thing this year. I want to be prolific as much as possible.
Sure.
So
yeah,
that's not a resolution, but it's just, that's what I want this year to be for me. So
yeah. I wish that there was, as to what he said about purpose, and just that's his purpose in the world, that's your purpose in the world.
Yeah.
And the way I view my own purposes, so to speak, in the world. I wish that in the moments of existential terror, or not even existential, but just extreme self-doubt or self-deprecating or whatever it is, that usually happen in the middle of my workday. I wish there could be some little application or something that would be like a bird on my shoulder, and it's just like, hey, Josh, you're going into the dark place. Like come back. Don't worry, you're fine. Just keep going. Because if I don't recognize in the moment that I'm going to those dark places, then I just deep dive further, and kind of check out for the rest of the day and am discouraged. And anyway, I suppose some of that comes with age and maturity and growth, and just learning to catch yourself when you're thinking thoughts that are untrue.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, someday, hopefully, you'll be able to look back and be like, I remember when I had a day job, and now I'm doing something better for the world.
I want to look back and be like, man, 28-year-old Josh was so neurotic and terrified, and like whatever age version of Josh is so at peace, like
better.
Whether good or bad happens in life, he's just chill. Hope to get there.
Yeah.
Zen.
I think we all.
Nirvana. Smells like Teen Spirit. Bleach.
Rape me.
Oh man. Had to take it there.
Here's a funny thing. We'll end with this. So my dad has this. He has a vinyl collection, of course, and then he has a CD collection, and it's very visible when he stopped buying CDs. So or basically stopped like getting new music, because when I was growing up, the newest CDs he had and probably still have are Smashing Pumpkins, Siamese Dream, Bush, 16 Stone, and then Nirvana in Utero. And so, of course, I pulled all those CDs, and I, of course, heard "Rape Me" by Nirvana, and was just like, whoa, all those CDs. There's the moment in Siamese Dream where I think it's the song "Silver Fuck," where he's like, "Bang bang, you're dead, hole in your head," and it's just like this like childlike song. Like there were so many moments on all those albums. All that to say is like that was the end of my dad's foray into relevant music, but that's like kind of where I started and picked up. So there's my story about.
The man's got good taste.
I know.
So and he still has all those, right?
Yeah.
Dang, he's probably got some like valuable items in there,
especially the vinyl. He's got like original Beatles pressings and Black Sabbath and stuff, Led Zeppelin. Yeah.
Goodness sakes.
Yeah. It's badass.
Well done.
That's why I said "Rape Me," because that's a very that album is very
it's in your blood, kind of.
It wasn't just off the cuff. I'd like to talk about rape. So, yeah. Well, hey, great podcast.
Great.
And next week it's just going to be you and me. We're going to talk about your album, or not your album, your movie, and my music for the movie. How you're feeling about it?
All that next week on
inkandecho.com. Thank you so much. Well, here's the stinger.
Here it is. Let's get on down to Blitz and Chits. They've got two video games over here. Hey, look, there's one of those virtual reality systems. Wow, Portal Pad, the game. You can absorb all the digital liquids. Oh my goodness. Oh boy.